Hello, in this video I'm going to talk about label removal, and I'm going to show you this, which is an old book I think I picked up about 10 years ago. I think it cost me 10p, and that is the result of a label removal, and I think I did that. Can't be absolutely certain, but basically it's something you want to avoid if you are removing labels. The other thing you need to, and I'm going to see if I can, is by using the light, you can see there where a label has come off, and it came off cleanly, but it took part of the sheen with it. And this is a problem that you will get. I've never worked out whether it's a fault of the sheen on the book, whether it's a fault of the glue in the label, and it's not easy to tell in advance whether a label being removed will remove the sheen. My best estimate, maybe 1 in 10 or maybe 1 in 20 will do it. So quite often I take the quick easy route and then curse if it's taken the sheen off. Sometimes I've tried to be careful and the sheen has still come off, so I don't think there's a foolproof method for avoiding damage to the sheen. All I know is it really irritates me if that happens. Right, so what I'm going to do is show you how I tend to tackle books. Now, I showed you this one, and I think I did that. Wasn't overly worried because I wasn't collecting Perry Rhodan at the time. I picked 3 books up as part of a batch that I bought from the estate of someone who died. He got most of his paperbacks been sold off, but there've been about 30 or 40 left, and I think I paid 10p each for them just to help out. I think I also, from the same lot, got 2 more, and these have the same labels on, if my memory is correct. Now, normally I just use my fingernail to ease the label off from the edge, and you can use a scraper and other things. I've seen other people do it that way. Now, what I will show you is this one, it looks as though it was started, and it looks as though the cover is starting to come off as it did on the first book. This one hasn't been tackled at all. So I'm going to see whether I can remove it more safely. Now, what I often do is with a paper label, I'll damp it. So I've got a little tub. This doesn't always work. It depends on the surface of the label. But it does, if it works, mean that the label can be removed in layers. And this one doesn't seem to be coming off. But for a paper label, it can be the best way. And if you can't do it, this is having some impact. The paper is starting, so maybe I'll try again. The paper is gradually getting damp, so by rubbing, I'm gradually removing the top layer . Now you can see there, that is where I said at the edge of the label it was starting to come away like it had on that book. So hopefully if I do the same on this, I'll be able to show you how to remove the label without damaging the book. This is very time consuming, so I wouldn't normally bother with a cheaper book. But if it's one that I particularly want to look after or keep, then I do sometimes do this. It's not always necessary to remove it, but I found this is the safest way. Oh, you can see I've taken some more off at the edge. So that one is going to be damaged, but this one looks all right. Now, having done that, I tend to use, well, I used to use Mr. Sheen furniture polish. I now, because you can't get that anymore, I use the multi-surface polish. And this often will work instead of water. And this tends to dissolve the glue. Now there are other products that will do this. And this is taking a long time because these were very difficult labels. I tend to find the older labels are more difficult. The glue becomes more difficult to remove. But as for taking the sheen off books, that tends to be a problem with newer labels. I say you need to let it soak for a while. I say that one because it had been damaged, but this one seems to be coming up. I don't know whether you can see. You can still see, if I use the light, you can still see the shape of the label, even though it's largely removed now. Now with the really old labels, I have come across examples where the glue just will not dissolve. If you do this and the surface of the cover is damaged and anything gets through to the layer below, you really are on a lost cause. So you have to try and be very careful, make certain you don't damage. Once you've got damage, it's very, very difficult. That looks as though I've just managed to damage it. And as you can see, the label shape is still visible. So this is a very difficult glue that will not remove. As I say, I didn't really care about these books. They were in my duplicates. And they are pretty much worthless. But as you can see, even being careful can be very difficult. So that shows you some of the problems you can get, and I tend to be selective on what I do. Now they were in my duplicates tray, so not worth very much to me. Here's another one. And it's got a Forbidden Planet label. Now I know Forbidden Planet labels tend to come off reasonably well. So I just use a finger nail to remove. Now in this case you can see the label came off very easily, but it's left a sheen. And Forbidden Planet, sorry, I'm going to adjust the camera. Forbidden Planet, the glue tends to go to a fine dust, so I use this. Not using a nail, just use the flat of my finger. As you can see, it's almost removed. I can still feel something on the surface. So I shall give it another one. So on the previous book I tried to use my nail, but on this I'm just using the flat of my finger. It is being obstinate, this one. It's nearly gone. It's not perfect, but it's pretty much okay. And there's you see, it is far from obvious. If you catch the light just right, you can still just see it. As I say, I've always used Mr. Sheen, and generally it works very well. I'll show you another one. Now this is a massive pricing ISBN type label. Again, because this is a duplicate, I will take my chance. And it is coming off reasonably well. And if you practice, you'll get to know which ones. I tend to ease it slowly. Now this one would have been suitable to use water. Right, now that came off the whole label. There is a hint of glue in a couple of places left on the book. Most of it is fine. There's a little bit of a smear. So I'm going to give it one final go. It's just about there. And there is no evidence that the label was there. Now, I tend to be much more wary about old labels. Again, another duplicate. And this one, for some reason, has got a double label. So while I think the top one would probably come off, I have no idea what is on the one underneath and whether there is any chance of getting that off. But what I would always say is experiment on old books that you no longer want. So this one, rather than use water, I will put the sheen straight on. And if the label's near the edge, my suggestion would always be to avoid anything getting onto the pages, which I didn't bother doing. Put a piece of paper in as protection. Then you're not going to damage the inside pages. Now, because this one's on another label, I'm going to see if it will ease off. No, it looks to be pretty... So normally I wouldn't try and do this, but as it's a duplicate, I'm willing to give it a go. Now it looks as though the sheen is gradually soaking in. I can feel some of the paper starting to get moist. I'm going to wipe the stuff off around the edge. And I think this is going to be a failure. I say I'm always wary of old labels. Because this is on top of another label, I can afford to do it and scrape. And I think this is not going to come off, as I suspected. no, I'm going to call this a failure.